So all of this here is really what I personally realized on my journey. Okay, as I mentioned, I started at the very bottom. I started at ground zero with this 3 out of 10 baseline, continuously feeling anxious, miserable, isolated, shitty, and that was my life. I was just stuck. And unfortunately, due to the way that we're conditioned, this is where most people reside. You're at the very bottom with a horrible experience of yourself, and you're stuck. There's nothing you can do about it. You just kind of take it for granted, like, hey, this is me, nothing I can do. This is how things turned out. And you spend a life trying to escape yourself and ultimately trying to escape life. That's what I would do. I was just trying to deaden myself. I didn't want to experience me. So I'd go out and say, drink. Okay, what are you doing if you're drinking? You're pouring literally poison into your body in order to not feel. I would try to daydream if I was awake. I'm like, just daydream, just don't be here, don't feel you, don't experience life. Anything to escape it. It's crazy. As I said, I would look forward to falling asleep at night. I was not there. If you talked to me, I would talk back, but if you looked into my eyes, there was no presence. There was not that light, there was not that aliveness. I was somewhere else. It was just, here's a body. That was pretty much it. I was in this haze, in this derp state, if you will. I had no purpose, no ambitions, a meaningless existence. And that's what you see if you go out in the street. You see people, a meaningless existence, doing whatever they can to cope with themselves and to escape themselves. And you can't really blame them either. It's easy to look down, like, look at those people going to drink, look at those people doing drugs. It's like, what else would they do? You're stuck with this. Like, at the time, I had no instructions. No one told me what to do. No one told me I could change this. It's like, you just do the best you can with what you have. It's like, hey, these were the cards you're dealt. Deal with it. And it was horrible. Every day I was like, oh, make it through the day, anxious, just always paranoid. And of course, I had all my excuses. If you're down here, you have all your excuses. You're like, well, if I lived in America, things would be different. That was one for me. I grew up in Switzerland in a small town of 650 people, probably 700 people now, a little farm town, and I had all my excuses. I'm like, well, I feel like shit. But it's because I don't live in America. There's no opportunity here. If I lived in America, there'd be opportunity. If I lived in America, people would be more friendly. I'd have more friends, et cetera, et cetera. If I lived in America, I'd be more popular. Everything was America, America, America. That was my excuse, okay? Probably right now, you have your excuse too. It's like, oh, it's not 10 out of 10, but it's because X, Y, Z. I need the money. I need to be improved. I need this. If this happened, then I would feel a lot better. If I had XYZ, if I did XYZ, I wouldn't be stuck down here. And that was my life. You would not have recognized me back then. I was a completely different person. I wasn't even a person. I was, again, just this vessel, this body, just trying to survive life. And what happened is in 2006, a little over 10 years ago, I found out about this whole world of personal development. And I randomly found out about it. Again, I didn't know that you could work on yourself. I heard of it obviously, but it's very easy to kind of classify it as like, oh, whatever, self-help. You look down on it because, again, you're just so entrenched in this paradigm. Most people just don't even want to acknowledge personal development. So I randomly found out about personal development with a book called The Game, okay, which is a book about success with women, how to pick up girls. And that book just changed my life. I read it and I was like, whoa, what is this? I had no idea what Game was. I had no idea that you could work on yourself to interact with people or interact with women. I was reading this and it was like reading the fucking the Holy Grail, the Bible. I'm like, what is this? Oh my God, you can actually do something about this? Like, I don't have to be stuck with this. I can work on myself and become this whole other person. Oh my God. And it just blew my mind. And this got me out of this very, the bottom level, let's just say, of being stuck. And it got me to level 1 or step 1, okay, which is optimize. This is ground zero. Step one, optimize. And this is, as I mentioned before, you optimizing this paradigm of scarcity. You're no longer stuck here. You start doing whatever you can to move up. And that's what I did. I'm like, you know what? Let's start working on my confidence. Let's start going out and interacting with strangers, interacting with women. And it was extremely scary. It was the first time I actually proactively confronted some of my fears. And this took, probably like a good 3 years in Switzerland, just going out nonstop, taking massive action and getting so many experiences interacting with strangers that I developed a certain situational confidence, where because I had so many experiences, so many references, if you will, I started feeling a little bit more confident. There was something to kind of back it up. I'm like, well, I feel better than before. And this transferred into all areas of my life. I'm like, you know what? If I don't have to accept this, if I can have control over the circumstances, the environments that I'm put in, I'm no longer just this leaf in the wind. I don't have to accept what's thrown at me. I can do something about it. I can take control of my life. And I decided after those first 3 years to move to Los Angeles, to finally move to America. My excuse, if I was in America. So I moved there and I quit university in Switzerland. It was not something that I personally wanted to do with my life, like nothing that university could bring me, in terms of, at the time, I was like, is what I connect with. I want to do something more artistic where I could express who I am. And at the time I was really into music. So I moved to America, and without the success with women, the confidence that I built there, I would never have the confidence to do something like that. So it started again transferring into all these areas of my life. Moved to America, kept optimizing everything, and eventually I started teaching this. I started teaching success with women to men around the world. I started traveling around the world, and my life situation kept getting better and better and better. And it pretty much reached this point where, from my perspective at the time, and this is what's interesting, I had optimized everything I could think of. Literally everything I could think of. I was like, whoa, I've optimized it all. Literally. And underneath it all, nothing really changed. I was on top of the world, and it was really ridiculous. Like, if you picture it, okay, just to kind of paint the picture here, here I am, small town Switzerland, horrible. 3 years, go out, start, getting all these experiences, move to America, start doing this in America, and start traveling around America for 2 years, teaching this to guys in all these different cities. Okay, so you start getting all this travel. You're like, whoa, here I am, like, from a small little town here, I'm traveling around America, and then you start doing it around the world. And I did 4 world tours at the time. I'm like, whoa, here I am, like, traveling, doing all these tours. I've been everywhere. And everything that I wanted just started clicking. I joke, like, there was a period, like, at that time there, I literally thought, multiple times that I was the second coming of Christ, that I was fucking Jesus. And I kid you not, I really thought that, because everything was happening. It was like, am I dreaming? Like, what the fuck is this? Going out of this stuck reality to this optimizing reality, it was like a dream come true, and I would get everything. I would get the women, as I said. I was like, you know what? Maybe if I get one girl to smile at me. Like, that was where I was at in the very beginning. I found out about success with women. I'm reading this. I'm like, whoa, you know what? Right now I'm 3 out of 10, but I do believe that if I just get one girl to smile at me in front of my friends, I didn't even think like pick up a girl. I was like, if I could get one girl to smile at me and they saw that, I would be complete. And then it happens and you get that little high and you're like, didn't work. I'm still there. You just get drawn back down to that. Well, what if I get a girl's number? And then you get that. You're like, okay, that didn't work. What if I get a girl to kiss me? And then you kiss. And every time you get this little high, but you're just drawn back down, drawn back down, drawn back down. Okay, kiss didn't work. What if I sleep with a girl? Boom, sleep with a girl. Didn't work. Okay, what if I sleep with, it's probably because she wasn't the most, she wasn't that beautiful. I need like model. And then you sleep with a model. You're like, oh, that didn't work. Maybe I need more models. You just start getting more and more models. Damn, that didn't work. Maybe it's a relationship. You start getting relationships. That didn't work. Okay, maybe it's not the women. Maybe it's, I just need more, I need the fame. And then you start getting the fame. And this was my reality. Here I am, Switzerland, get the woman, move to America. Whoa, start getting the fame, where you're not only getting all this approval and validation from women, but you're also getting it from huge crowds of guys cheering you on for that. You know, and if you're a guy, like the little high you get when you tell your friend, like, and I slept with her, it's like you get that little high. Imagine saying that to huge fucking oceans of guys, and everyone just like fucking cheers. You're like, whoa, like more validation than I could ever imagine. And I'm like, that didn't work. Shit. So it's not the validation, it's not the girls. Maybe it's the finances, you know? And then I started making a lot of money, more than I could possibly spend, especially with the travel, because I was constantly traveling. All my life was in a suitcase. There was nothing I could really buy. And here I am, I'm like, well, I have more money than I can spend, traveling around the world, because that's who you're like, well, maybe it's just I don't have enough life experiences. No, I'm traveling around the world. I'm having the most crazy life experiences ever. You know, for a guy, it's like you go to a new country, you go out, it's this crazy adventure. At the end, you end up with a beautiful girl. It's like a fucking movie. And then everyone cheers you on and you get paid for it. You know, again, from my perspective at the time, I was like, I have everything. I'm Jesus. This is insane. But underneath it all, there's still that 3 out of 10. And as we discussed here, I had snapped out of the system. I was no longer stuck, but I was still playing within the system. Okay, when you optimize, as we saw, if this is, say, scarcity, the paradigm of scarcity, optimizing, you're still acting coming from scarcity, which is still reinforcing it and entrenching you more and more in that paradigm. And the interesting thing with success is that it eliminates all your excuses. All those excuses. Oh, if I moved to America, I did. Still didn't work. Women, I did. Didn't work. Money, got it. Didn't work. Fame, got it. Didn't work. Travel, didn't work. Cooler friends, cooler connections, access to cooler things, got it. Didn't work. I had exhausted all options I could possibly think of, and something was still missing. And to be honest, I probably felt even worse than when I was stuck. Because when you're stuck, you have your excuses, you have hope. When you get everything, hope is gone. You're just like, well, I'm still there, and now there's no longer hope. All my excuses are gone. Okay, what sucks even more than not getting what you want is getting what you want and realizing it didn't work. And instead of realizing here that maybe this isn't the way, okay, I was extremely stubborn, and because I was so invested here, I just kept pushing it. You know, it's like more and more and more. It's compulsive, as we said. It's a fucking addiction. And I pushed my marketing. I was like, you know what? I need stronger reactions. So I started doing a lot more shock marketing. And I got so sucked into that I completely lost touch with reality, you know, posting all sorts of inappropriate jokes, inappropriate videos, and just trying to get this more extreme reaction. Like in my mind, that was the solution, like more extreme, like anything. I mean, at that point to try to get there, it's like I was desperate. And you know, what ended up happening is I did get that extreme reaction in the form of a worldwide media scandal.
I see some comments from various people here about a fella called Julian Blanc.
Julian Blanc. Julian Blanc. Julian Blanc.
Julian Blanc.
Julian
You all
Blanc.
know who Julian Blanc
Yes.
My marketing got pushed so far, and then it got taken out of context, and that got passed up the media chain, and everything just exploded. And to the point where, you know, if you go on Google right now, if you just open a browser and you put in the most hated man in the world, you will see me. You know, I was Time Magazine's the most hated man in the world, and everything that I had optimized, everything that I had spent those 8 years from the beginning, like 2006, me finding out, oh, whoa, success with women, to 2014, gone. Just in an instant, it was taken away. I lost everything. And this for me was the hardest and the most traumatic thing that I've ever been through. You know, it's like literally losing everything just out of nowhere. It's like you're walking and then one day to the next, all this, gone. It's like you're walking, you're hit by a car, your legs are gone. That's what it felt like. My reputation, all that validation, all that approval, all that fame, gone. And if you're so attached to it, like I was so attached to those reactions, you're so attached to the good, you're extremely attached to the bad, and that affects you. And from one day to the next, it was everyone loves me to half the world, or you know, more than that, hates me. And that's like, whoa. And then you start like, of course, kind of questioning yourself, like it destroys your reality. You're like, everyone hates me. Oh, it's like full life crisis. So reputation gone, to the point where it was dangerous too. Like there were death threats. Lawyers were calling me, like I had to go in hiding for a while. I couldn't run my business or make money anymore. I couldn't do any events, couldn't speak, couldn't express myself. Because that too, it's like I moved to America originally for music, but then with the speaking, the traveling, you know, it's like me giving the seminars was me giving the concerts. Me working on the content was like composing a song. Me recording videos for YouTube was like recording the songs. That was taken away for a while. Money, again, couldn't make any money. So money, can't make it. And I lost so much money just on PR lawyers, different lawyers for appeals where, for example, because I was the most hated man in the world on Google, countries like the UK would just send in like, hey, you can't come to our country to give seminars. You're banned, let's just say. And it was on like things that I didn't even do. So it's like, okay, they're quoting, for example, a fake Twitter because things got taken out of context. And now to appeal that, 400,000. So you're like, whoa. So it's so expensive. And I just lost all my money, you know, probably close to $500,000 just gone. Lost relationships, lost friendships, lost freedom of expression, health, because it was just so, like intolerable going through that. I just started eating a lot, and you can kind of see like from before and then like right after, I just got really unhealthy and fat. And I reached a tipping point, and this was in Miami, probably like 3 months after it hit. Things were just so intolerable. Like that was the lowest moment of my entire life. Again, went from being the second coming of Christ to just being crucified. And I remember I was there, and it was the end of the night. I was just walking around, and it was I went and sat down on the beach, and all the thoughts and emotions were so intolerable because everything was just gone, that I just let go. And that was the scariest thing I ever did. Again, it's like you're hanging on that cliff. It's like, let go, let go. It's like at this point, it was like just so intolerable. I was like, fuck it. And I let go. And you'd think you would fall into scarcity. You'd fall and ultimately die. It kind of feels like suicide, like letting go. But it was actually the opposite. And I experienced this state of abundance. And this is when I realized and knew, and it wasn't just like a logical understanding, like I really knew that underneath it all, you have that state of abundance. And, you know, it's what you are at a core level, and the journey there is about letting go of scarcity and not optimizing. Here's step 2, but dropping. Optimize is step 1. Step 2, drop. And this here is what changed my life. It's by literally having everything just taken away. You know, you have nothing. And because you now have nothing, you can finally find out who you are, you know, what you are. And of course, what immediately happened after that, like I had this glimpse, like, whoa! Instead of, you know, falling into scarcity, I you know, drifted into abundance, or realized I was in abundance. And immediately after, all of the repetitive thoughts and beliefs and emotions that were just buried in my subconscious took over again. And we'll discuss this. You know, it's like there's so many things that are built on this assumption of scarcity that are just in your subconscious that are still active. So you have to dig that up and let go of it as well in order to make this permanent. Okay, and we'll get to it. But remember this, you know, the prime obstacle is your subconscious. So it all took over again, but that experience showed me the journey there. And not just that, but it gave me the proof that abundance isn't here. It gave me that proof. Without the proof, you can try to convince yourself, but there's still going to be doubt. So I saw the destination. I experienced the destination. And now I knew how to get there. It's by dropping. Okay? And this is what inspired me to start reflecting on my life, reflecting on my experiences, reflecting on what the fuck happened, how this happened. And this is what inspired all of this information here. Okay? It's ground zero. Unfortunately, this is most people. you find out about personal development, you find out about working on yourself, success, hustle, etc. You start optimizing this paradigm of scarcity. The more you optimize, the more you realize it didn't work, the less excuses you have, and eventually you have to reach this point where you drop it. You can't get there through optimizing, you get there through dropping. Stuck, optimize, drop. And to drop, you really have to basically reach this point where you kind of have this nihilistic point of view, where you have to be okay that you don't need to do anything, that there is no point to anything. You have to be okay with nothing. Because what are you required to do here? You must give up everything. You must come to terms with the fact that you don't need to do, you don't need to improve, you don't need to become successful, you don't need to make money, you don't have to be healthy. There's nothing you have to do. There is no point to anything. And it's at this point here, people are like, well, what's the point? Like, why am I even alive? Like, you're one step away from despair, but you're also one step away from enlightenment. Okay, and this is when genuine inspiration kicks in. You reach that point of just full nihilism, like, okay, no point to anything. And then what you notice is something kicks in. And then you're inspired to take action, and it's not this forced escape. Okay? And once again, it's like it feels like everything's insignificant, but in reality, this is extremely freeing because there is no meaning, there is no purpose. You can create your own. You can create a meaning and a purpose that is authentic to you. There's nothing you need to do. You don't need to compromise that authenticity. And this is my view on life right now. It's like we're all stuck in detention, if you will. There is no point, there's no purpose to anything, but you're still here until the day you die. What are you inspired to do during that time? It's not what you get. There's nothing you need to do. You die, you're gone. There's nothing you can take with you. But during this time, what would make this experience authentic and just amazing for you? What are you inspired to do? That's life. And once again, you can't force this inspiration either. It's something that just happens. And what you will notice is that you will be inspired to, for example, be healthy. You will naturally be inspired to, quote unquote, work on yourself and, quote unquote, improve. But it's not coming from this place of you forcing it. Okay, what you will notice is you will be inspired to have your back. You will be inspired to have your own best interests at heart. You don't have to force yourself to do this. This is the journey. This is what you are required to do. And the question I get all the time here too is, do you have to go through this step one of optimizing before dropping? And the answer is no, there are no requirements to dropping. However, most people will work on optimizing this paradigm of scarcity first in order to reach a point where they are open to the idea, just open to the idea of dropping it. You're fed up with the results. Like, you're like, hey, it's not fucking working. Otherwise, like, you're not going to be open to this. You're like, no, I'm just going to keep doing this. So you're fed up with the results. You have enough references of it didn't work, that you're willing to give dropping it a try, and you have the courage and presence to drop it. You need to build that up, because dropping it requires a lot of courage. It's basically requires you to look at different emotions that you're running away from, different thoughts you're running away from. It requires you to experience them and let them go versus fear them and constantly run away from them. You need the courage and presence to take responsibility for where you're at, to accept that it didn't work, and to take the risk to shift paradigms completely. Okay, to challenge the old ways of doing things and to stretch and expand your worldview. And another note with all of this is that once you see and get this, it also helps resolve a lot of contradictions. Most contradictions that people freak out over. It's like, well, wait a minute, it's this, but this, like what? They freak out. Those contradictions would be resolved if those people got this. Okay? Why? Because there are different tools and different advice depending if you're in step 1 or step 2. Okay, what works and what is true changes depending on what step you're on. There are different tools for different paradigms. There are different tools to optimize this paradigm of scarcity and drop it. Okay, and what works in one paradigm will destroy you and become an obstacle in the other. For example, usually here, to wake up, you need to be kind of fed up with this stuckness in this miserable state of being. So misery will kick in, and you will be, as we discussed before, using this carrot and stick approach. Run away from this, run towards something else. That's optimize. That is usually the first thing that kicks in when you start stepping shit up. We say misery is the first teacher. That's probably what brought you here. You're just fed up. A lot of guys with success with women, for example, they get into this because their heart was broken. They get a horrible breakup and they're like, okay, fuck it, no more. So at that point, it's like, if you're down here, it's like whatever the fuck it takes to get out of there. However, although misery will help you go from ground zero to step 1, it's not going to get you to step 2. Step 2, it'll prevent you from getting there. It becomes your obstacle. It destroys you. So misery is the first teacher, but don't let it be the last. Okay, it's not sustainable. It's what gets you started, but it's not what keeps you going. Okay, so that is one example. And once again, don't get stubborn with this. It's like, no, it's all about misery. With misery, it's similar to a fucking credit card. Eventually, it's like a debt that has to be paid. It'll give you that short-term win, but not that long-term win. You won't have that long-lasting motivation or the long-lasting success. This type of mentality where it's like, it's me against the world. I got to beat everyone. Eventually, it will come and bite you in the ass. So don't get hooked on any specific way of doing things. It's like, use the tool if you're down here, but then don't hang on to that tool. Once it's served its purpose, drop it. Once misery, for example, scarcity, that running away from running towards has served its purpose to wake you up, let go of it, put it down. This is extremely common with the self-help junkie. As I said, it's like hooked on optimizing. It's like you're taught, try harder, be smarter, faster, better, work harder, keep on working, so on and so forth. At this point, if you're just continuously just hooked on optimizing, put the tools down. Okay, it's like no more self-help for you. You're cut off, and you'll usually sense too when a tool has served its purpose by just bringing awareness to how you feel. How you feel right after, and look for relief. Right now, waking up from this horrible, state of just stuckness and scarcity, if you are motivated by misery, although it's still you running away from something, it's you optimizing, you feel relief because you're out of this. You're no longer stuck. But once you're out of there, you feel relief when dropping it. So different tools for different steps of the way. Stop looking for like this one teaching where there are no contradictions. Okay, for one teaching to have no contradictions, someone would have to just focus on step 2 or just focus on step 1. You're going to find a lot of contradictions in my teachings. I have videos on YouTube where I'm telling you how to snap out of this fucking baseline. I'm telling you carrot and stick approach, how to optimize that. That's for someone who's at that level. Once you're there, it's about fucking dropping it. Okay, so I just offer a bunch of teachings for different people depending on where they're at. And this here is how I personally realized everything that I'm sharing with you. And since that event in Miami where, I kind of realized, temporarily I experienced this state of abundance, I went all out obsessing over this in order to find a way to get there and to make it permanent. And it took 2 years, here we are 2 years later, of me sitting with myself, reflecting on, all my years here, stuck, all my years optimizing, all of those experiences, facing, these deep, dark aspects of myself, facing your demons, bringing awareness to stuff you just never bring awareness to, reading all these different resources, these books. I worked for a while with an energy coach. Like I just went all out in order to find a process that worked for me and what I'm going to teach you here. Okay, I eventually found this. And this is field tested and proven. This is something that I've taught to clients. It's not based in some mystical reality. This is proven to work, okay, in the real world. I'm someone who's extremely logical and practical, and that is what I'm bringing you here. It's not some hypothetical reality. It's easy to talk about this. It's like, where's the practicality? And that's what we're going to be getting into. It's real, it's raw, and this, okay, and what I'm bringing you is what changed my life, and this is what will change yours.